Amazing Shettima is an activist based in Nigeria. Is the national president of Arewa Youth Consultative Forum, youth director of Pronaco, Nadeko, and so on and so forth. I've been involved in so many struggles, and I contested in the last election as a candidate of Liberal Democratic Party at the level of vice president of Nigeria. Although being what it is, of course, being boxed out of the election, at the end of the day, we keep watching because we have a system that does not allow credible people to come on and contest for offices.
So there's something about you that the media seem to love you, and you have a way with your positions on issues. Why are you the way you are?
I am because I believe injustice anywhere is a threat to justice anywhere. I believe justice must be seen to be given to all. I believe in free society. I believe in fair sharing whatever I am. And injustice or injury to one is injury to all. And that has been my philosophy, and that has been my belief. So I believe what is good for me should also be good for any other person. And that has been my views in national issues in Nigeria. And I look forward to see a Nigerian of my dream someday that will adapt to those principles.
You have interesting views on Boko Haram. Let me start with this interview where you said that the sect is sponsored by frustrated politicians who are desperate to loot the treasury of Nigeria. Who are these politicians?
Yeah, what I mean by that was that the truth of the matter is that the agitations by the so-called group called Boko Haram really is uncalled for. I knew we have a lot of problems in northern part of the country, but I do not also subscribe to the fact that it's worth taking the life of an ordinary Nigerian or a life of anybody in anywhere, no matter how the struggle is all about. I don't believe in armed struggle. I've come a long way in the struggle since the dark days of military, but this mode of operandi by this group really caused for a lot of concern. I knew I came from the same region with them, and we have the same problem. Is as a result of injustice meted on a common mind in other part of the country that also gave roots to this group so-called Boko Haram. To the best of my knowledge, I knew we had so much trouble, and really there was a need for our people to react. But I do not also want them to have. I didn't expect them to have gone this extreme. The truth of the matter is that yes, we had opportunity to have made the north another place, a very comfortable place for Nigerians, where they will live comfortable with that problem. Having had the opportunity of being in power for over 30 to 35 years, and out of 52 years of independence of this country, it's expected that other part of the country should not be experiencing anything called poverty, lack of employment, illiteracy, and so on and so forth, backwardness and lack of development. But today, as it is, not only in Nigeria, in entire West Africa, to the northern part of the country, has taken over charge when it comes to the issue of poverty, backwardness, and high rate of unemployment is from northern part of the country. And in other words, I'll give you an example of what is really happening. You can now see at northern and in southern part of the country, or anywhere in part of the country, you find out that we take major streets begging for what to eat, looking for jobs, and so on and so forth, how to survive. This was a calculated attempt deliberately by some clique of people in northern part of the country to make sure they keep people where they are, so that they will continue to unleash terror and all these injustices and whatever. So as a result of that, I think this is what gave the idea of this group that comes up, though it is more of the other side of it, because I do not really felt that it is right to kill anybody, especially those who are voiceless, to be a direct victim. I think it's really wrong, and that has been my concern.
So I know that you don't want to mention the names of the politicians who are sponsoring them, or you don't know. Is that?
No, not really. I don't think I want to mention any names, but of course, when I say frustrated politicians, these frustrated politicians are not only in northern part of the country; they are cut across. They are even in the south. They are also with their collaborators in northern part of the country. On one hand, they operate together in making sure that it's either they are not favored by the government, let them make the government ungovernable. But I don't think it is correct, because those who are suffering the whole thing are those who are voiceless. So I am not in position to begin to make mention of them, but I don't also subscribe to the fact that because you lost power and you want to be in power by all means, it is right for you now to begin to unleash terror, or also some clique of people to begin to unleash terror on innocent Nigerians.
Yeah, these people who do that, you said in one interview that that they look at, I'm quoting you now, you said that they don't even know why they are committing them because they are frustrated and hunger has taken over and they see violence as an avenue to vent their frustration. Do you really believe that they don't know why they are doing what they are doing?
Yes, one reason here I will state categorically is that, one, I cite an example of issue of information. Information is power. In other part of the country, you discover that it's no longer a story that we don't get information the way the southern people get information so easily. An average elite, even to buy a paper in other part of the country, is a problem, and this goes a long way to affect us psychologically. That's one. Two, in terms of political also orientation, in most cases you find out that it is easy for a man in the southern part of the country to know exactly what is happening in Nigerian and in Nigerian politics. But in other part of the country, oftentimes our people rely so much on CNN, Voice of America, BBC, and so on and so forth. Mostly those news are international news, but there are more to it that we don't get. I'll give you an example. When it comes to issue of media in other part of the country, you will see also that is a calculated attempt to effort deliberately by some class of people to make sure we don't have enough media in northern part of the country, despite the fact that we have people who are in governance who know exactly the importance of media. They did that deliberately because they want to keep the people in dark, so that nobody knows exactly what is happening. It is easy for them to manipulate at any given time to acquire so much wealth at the expense of a common man's life, comfortable, welfare, and so on and so forth. So I think this is one of the problems we have in another part of the country. So it is easy to incite somebody in another part of the country, coupled with the issue of poverty, hunger, and so on and so forth, with lack of information and lack of Western education even to start with. It is easy to incite somebody in another part of the country to say this issue is about religion, is about ethnicity, and somebody just take any kind of and unleash terror on innocent people, just simply because he felt what was said was right, because he does not know exactly what is happening. And this has been the problem, or one of the greatest challenges we are having as stakeholders in other part of the country. We try as much as we can to make sure we have a forum that is mass movement to educate the people, give massive orientation, and you could see the level of resistance. The picture is not as usual as it used to be in the olden days, because we try as much as we can to conscientize Nigerians that your common enemy is not your brother from southern part of the country. Your common enemy is not because he's a Christian or you're a Muslim or whatever. The truth of the matter is that you have been held on a hostage by some class of people in Nigeria, and of course, you alone cannot make Nigeria. Is a collective thing, and if it's collective, then all hands must be on deck. Collectively, I believe we can make Nigeria of our dreams if we are all willing to make a sacrifice for better Nigeria.
Now, let me go back to the injustice, because you mentioned that there's injustice and it's part of the things that are fueling the problem. But also you said in another interview that Islamic doctrine says that these people who are fighting injustice will fight to the last. And I'm thinking, how do we negotiate peace if the solution is to stop the injustice?
Yeah, I remember vividly sometimes ago I was talking about issue when the issue of Niger Delta came on board. I was talking about that I'm afraid that this issue might not end on only issue of Niger Delta. It might end up in a situation where the more this issue of amnesty comes up, our people, despite the fact we had a problem of backwardness, this illiteracy, poverty, and so on and so forth, hunger, is likely that the kind of militancy we are going to get in other part of the world, and I said this about 8 years, 7 years ago, back before now, that the day the northern people will take into arm is going to be disaster, coupled with our background, one as Muslims in number from northern part of the country. Of course, you and I know that if somebody is being brainwashed when it comes to the issue of fighting for his rights, and then link it up with Islamic religion, of course, the consequences is that he's going to do it wholeheartedly, believing that in the course of what he believes, if he dies, he's going to paradise. But then, because people were misinformed, the truth of the matter is that what we're experiencing has nothing to do with religion. What we're experiencing has nothing to do with our differences of ethnicity. It's just self-centered people who are working in people's psyche in ensuring that they engage them by telling them what is not true, putting them into more trouble. At the end of the day, you ask them, why are you into this whole thing after being arrested? And they end up telling you that why they were here, they don't even know why they are here. They were just told that it's a problem between the Islamic and Christian, and they are just fighting on their right. And the truth of the matter is not so. But we try as much as we can to educate the people on the implication of what this really pertains, and also the future of northern part of the country.
I want you to, you said something that was key to the Nigerian question in an interview, where you said that we have to wipe out the fear of dominance and suspicion amongst the ethnic nationalities out of the Nigeria's physique. And I want you to watch this video that we're going to show you, and then you can help us understand the origin of that fear and how we are able to wipe it out.
Okay.
All right.
That area. If you put them in a labor camp as a laborer, within a year they try to emerge as headman of that camp, and so on. Well, within a year they try, we're not alive as headman of that camp, because you can see from our northernization policy that in 1952, when I came here, there weren't 10 northerners in our civil service here. Then I tried to have it northernized, and now all important posts are being held by northerners.
Is this policy of filling all key posts in the north solely with northerners and not with other Nigerians a temporary or permanent one?
In actual fact, what it is a northerner first. If you can't get a northerner, then we take an expatriate like yourself on contract. If we can't, then we can employ another Nigerian, but on contract too. This is going to be permanent, I should say, as far as I can foresee, because it will be rather dangerous to see the number of boys who are now turning from all our learning institutions, coming out with having no work to do. I'm sure whichever government of the day might be, it will feel rather embarrassed, and it might even lead to bloodshed.
Doesn't this damage the idea, sir, of all people in all regions in Nigeria being fellow citizens of one country?
Well, it might, but you are, new to our region, but how many northerners are employed in the east or in the west? The answer is no. And if there are, there may be 10 laborers employed only in the two regions.
One thing I've noticed, Premier, while I've been here, is that northerners seem to have, I might almost call it, obsession about the Igbos. Could you perhaps explain that to me?
Well, the Igbos are more or less the type of people whose desire is mainly to dominate everybody. If they go to a village, to a town, they want to monopolize everything in that area. If you put them in a labor camp as a laborer, within a year they will try to emerge as headman of that camp, and so on. Well, in the past, our people were not alive to their responsibilities, because you can see from our northernization policy that in 1952, when I came here, there weren't 10 northerners in our civil service here. Then I tried to have it northernized, and now all important posts are being held by northerners.
Is this policy of filling all key posts in the north solely with northerners and not with other Nigerians a temporary or permanent one?
In actual fact, what it is a northerner first. If you can't get a northerner, then we take an expatriate like yourself on contract. If we can't, then we can employ another Nigerian, but on contract too. This is going to be permanent, I should say, as far as I can foresee, because it will be rather dangerous to see the number of boys who are now turning from all our learning institutions, coming out with having no work to do. I'm sure whichever government of the day might be, it will feel rather embarrassed, and it might even lead to bloodshed.
Doesn't this damage the idea, sir, of all people in all regions in Nigeria being fellow citizens of one country?
Well, it might, but you are, new to our region, but how many northerners are employed in the east or in the west? The answer is no. And if there are, there may be 10 laborers. How many northerners are employed?
All right, Alhaji, I want you to, if you can respond, please, on how we are going to wipe out the fear of dominance. Hello?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, so how do we wipe out this fear of dominance? You know, because it's been...
Yeah, this issue of suspicions has come a long way, but the truth of the matter is that Nigerian is not the same with Nigerian of yesterday. It's now our responsibility to make sure we correct the error from what it was in the past. And to do that, it means we have, that is why some of us believe that there is a need for us, because this has come a long way. From the inception of even the amalgamation of the country in 1914, there is that issue of whether to be part of Nigeria or not, and this was an idea by the British then, and some of us knew that really a proper consultation was not made then, because we read history and we understand exactly what it was for the interest of them Britain to have bring the various diverse interests together to form a union called Nigeria. Having said that, that's notwithstanding, and that does not mean really we cannot be together as a nation, but then there still remains things that we must reflect on, because it is also important for us to reflect on the past, know exactly the situation of today, so that we can now channel a new course for a better Nigeria. And of course, that is why some of us felt that there's a lot of things we can do rather than going after shadow. There are fundamental issues. What are the fundamental issues? My view is that I have come a long way in this advocacy of believing that sovereign national conference stand better chance to address Nigerian problems. We have to sit down as a people, irrespective of our differences of ethnicity, irrespective of our differences as whether Muslim, Christian, pagan, or whatever faith you might think you belong to. It's also important for us to sit down and discuss the issue, and that determines the future of this country. No matter how we do it, there's no any better way than doing what we think is the right thing, that we must sit down and have that conference. Having said that, beyond the conference, we still have a problem of constitution. Of course, you can't run a country with a fraud document called 1999 constitution, because 1999 constitution is a fraud document. It's imposed by then the military administration of Abdulsalam Abubakar. And of course, I am one of those also into that the same advocacy as people too were in federal high courts challenging the existence of that 1999 constitution. After we ran the Pronaco conference, we came up with a draft constitution proposing that this is what we felt Nigerians should look into and adopt. At the end of the day, we challenge the federal government to come up, if need be, let us go to the referendum, let them bring the 1999 constitution, let us bring the People's Constitution, which is the one being drafted by the Pronaco under the leadership of Chief Anthony Nahoro and Chief Wole Soyinka and the rest of us who were all part of that processes, believing that this is the best thing to do. And we're in court, as I speak with you, we've been in court for over 5 years now. None of them cares to listen, none of them cares to even have any consideration about it, because they believe that once that has come to play, it means most of them will likely have to go. They will lose all the power they felt they are really in charge of, and they make the whole issue of power to be as if it's their birthright, as if it's a family issue. And some of us felt really bad about the constitution, and that's why I stand on my view to believing that Sovereign National Conference will address this issue, and we need to sit down. That's the only alternative out, or else if we don't sit down, we wake up one day there's no Nigeria, because it's obvious that with things happening, it's clearly that we might end up waking up one day there's no country, because there are suspicious spots across, not even within the south and the north. Now it's even within the north and fellow northerners, where the non-Hausa Fulani believes that a man who is not Hausa Fulani is not his brother. We have a situation where a man in the northern part of the country sees his fellow Hausa man because he does not belong to Islamic, or he is not a Christian like him, is not his brother. And then that is one of the greatest challenges we have ahead of us. So most of the things we are doing right now is to see how we can harmonize our home, come up with a particular position within ourselves, consult our people. Everybody must be on board so that we can now discuss. And that's why we made a categorical statement recently by saying that those past leaders need to apologize to northern people, especially our generation today. They need to apologize for us to sit down and be comfortable to even discuss way forward now. Because if they pretend not to know that they really put the northern part of this country or Nigeria at large into this mess, that means they are not really looking for solution. And for us to be comfortable with them, because we have to consider them whether to be part of this our generation or not. Because this has to do with us. This has to do with our generation. You can't have your cake and you can't eat your cake and have it again. Their days are over.
Yeah, let me ask you. You talked about returning merit to national life, and I want to know, will you want to see the federal character at the catchment area and things like zoning? Do you want us to abolish them, or you think that they are still necessary for Nigeria today?
I sincerely believe that this issue of regional system will go a long way to help this country, because this federal character of the thing we are doing right now does not in any way help. One, if you look at how the government go into spending so much money lavishly in the hands of these crook people, most of these characters that claim to be politicians, claim to be leaders of Nigeria, that were not even in any place being elected by Nigerians. I think it caused for a lot of worry. So I think if we can go back to regional system of government that it was in the early 60s, we'll be able to now bring out the criminals out of the decent people. And another decent man can go on to contest an election in his various constituency, and the constituency would have known his biography, would have known his great-grandfather, at some time, whether if the father is involved in stealing chicken, then the father is involved in stealing cow, then you can expect that if he comes to power, he can steal 100 cow. At that level, we can now begin to make screenings of those who becomes our representative, whether in the parliament, whether in any form of government. I think that is the best way to go about it. Otherwise, the way the system is going now, you do not need the community or the constituency where you belong to support you to go to Abuja and represent them. All you need is to go to Abuja and get a godfather, and the godfather imposes you on the people. This has always been the problem of Nigeria. So I think we need to revisit that 1960 and have it done properly. If you remember, the elder statesman who is my leader, and may blessed memory, may his soul rest in perfect peace, in person of Ahmadu Bello Sadara, just saw his clips. He succeeded in doing what he was doing, uniting the North, because then he was a premier of northern part of the country, and then we, at least from a level, we can say the corruption wasn't as bad as it is today. The Awolowo of a blessed memory succeeded in making the Southwest where it is today, because then he was the regional leader too, and he did a lot of impact to his people. This must be done right now. We have enough of resources that we can take care of all those things, and we have enough time. If we are willing to move Nigeria to another level, then we have to drop this bogus style of government that we in quotes we call it presidential system of government, but at the end of the day it's purely unitary system of government, and we must insist that we go back to that regional system of government. Of course, I'm one of those who believe so much in that.
Now let me ask you, if the African Liberation Party had won the election in 2011, you would have been the vice president of Nigeria.
I would have been the vice president of Nigeria.
Now what would you have said to northern governors who are now asking for greater share of the oil revenue as vice president?
I would tell them in my capacity as a vice president of the country, I will ask them to account for the little they have gotten. I will ask them to give an account of the little they have gotten. As far as I'm concerned, from northern part of the country, I do not see them making any effect in the life of a common man in northern part of the country. You see, issues like these are very critical. Yes, there's nothing wrong in them asking for more, because if you look at the revenue sharing, it's really lopsided. It's not normal. But having said that, can we now just begin, because we felt that it's been lopsided, then we felt we should encourage more corruption by asking them to demand for more revenue that cannot be of useful to a common man? The answer is no. The better account for the little they are getting, then so that we'll be able to now begin to see. In fact, if they are doing well, I will be at the forefront to agitate this and go into advocacy and come out to the street, because I'm a freedom fighter. I'm always in the street. I believe in strength in trenches, no matter how bad it is, no matter how difficult it is going to be, for as long as it's going to yield a positive result. I believe, I don't have sentiment, I believe that we can come out together with other progressives to fight for them. But in these cases, you find out that they are not too genuine about the whole action they are asking for. The little you are getting, what do you do with it? The next thing you do, you go out to Dubai, go to America, go to UK and other places and invest. Against the wishes, collective interest of Nigerian people. The northern people are not getting it anything. The companies are not functioning. The textile in other parts of the country, especially specifically from where I come from in Kaduna, they are not functioning. So of what importance will this money going to be if given to them that they are demanding? So I think we have to look into the situation critically. Yes, there's nothing wrong in them asking, because it's not really fairly shared. So that's my take on that.
Okay,
so I think we need to account for the, and in fact, before I even round up, we are working now jointly with other progressive in other parts of the country. In fact, to even ask the governors, the 19 northern governors, and even the senators and even the House of Reps member, to account for the little stewardship they are into, as in giving their account. As the governor, they give account, and those in the National Assembly should also tell us what they've been doing all this while, because it's not just about going there to sit down and warm a seat without sponsoring any bill. You sit down and you be sleeping, you take your coffee and come out, and then the day you begin to tell people you are senator or House of Reps. It's not enough, because we are not moving. If you look, the situation is that whatever we want in the National Assembly, we are expected to get, but because we have a situation of bunch of people who don't even know why they are there, they cannot even ask for things that will be of good to northern part of the country. They just sit down, because by number, if it's by vote, at least by number, nobody can stand us. In northern part of the country, we have 19 northern states. If they can come together, unite, and ask for one thing, demand for it after all, the governments have no choice than to yield to the demand. But because some of them are just there warming the seat and so on and so forth, so we intend to begin to look critically into those issues of these so-called representatives and so on and so forth.
Okay, we have just a few seconds left. I want to put across this question. You voted for President Jonathan, and I want to know, how is he doing? Has he delivered? And also, could you tell us the people sponsoring the Arewa Consultative Forum?
Honestly, I don't think this government has done enough. It's so sad and so disappointing, because some of us, when this issue of zoning or no zoning came, we put our neck to say, look, it's not about zoning, it's about Nigerian president, it's about who will deliver the country. We felt that Jonathan did not belong to any of this class of people that have failed the country. He came from nowhere, and God, in his infinity mercy, bring him on board. Of course, we tried our best, because when it was so difficult and obvious that he could not get there, we came out in trenches and formed a platform called Save Nigerian Group. We came out on the street and insisted that he must be given. And today, by God's grace, he is the president of the country. But today, what we expected of him was not really working at all. It's quite disappointing, and some of us are looking at the whole situation as if we are dreaming, because this is not what we expect, and this is not the kind of thing we expect from him. We expect that he has nothing to lose, even if he has to do it and give up and resign if need be. Let him do, because he did not fight for it. It was God that made him to be where he is. So there was really no reason for him not to put a smile on the faces of Nigerians. So really, the situation, if I'm going to mark him, I'll mark him 0.
What about the sponsors of Arewa Consultative Forum? Can you tell us how it's being sponsored, or how the funding is coming?
Are you talking about Arewa Consultative Forum?
Yeah. The Youth Consultative Forum, yeah. How do you?
Because we have an organization that is a voluntary organization where we commit members are involved into the registration, because it's a mass organization cut across about 17 states. We raise our funds through levies, weekly dues, and so on and so forth. And in often cases, you have support from people who believe so much in the struggle that this is an organization that is not violent, believe in peace, believe in unity of Nigeria, and believe in a better society. So of course, we get a lot of sympathy from various people that are progressive, like-minded, and also membership. This because it's a mass organization.
All right, thank you so much, Alhaji Shettima, for coming on our show.
You're welcome, my brother.
We appreciate this. So that has been our discussion with the president of the Arewa Youth Consultative Forum. When we come back, we continue our show with a special program on Women History Month, and other regular shows like Keeping It Real, Dr. Damages, and AfriCurrent. So stay tuned. Of course, we are going to take your calls to down the road. Thank you.